First off, be prepared for spoilers. Tons and tons and tons of spoilers. No holds barred. Spoilers. Pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of spoilers. And if I could figure out how to fix the lighting on this computer, I would. It's driving me fucking bonkers. But anyways, welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina K-O-S-T-I-N-A. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects, no fancy schmancy stuff going on here. And she's one of my authors, one of my favorite authors in the Regency section of town. And I haven't read a Regency book in a long time. I'm not one for contemporary romance and all the angst. I'm just not. But a Regency, on the other hand, is different. I don't know why, but I treat it as different. Now, I'm waiting to do this one. I haven't done it yet. And I've also got this one on tap. But I decided she started a new series. I have most of her other series. I've done videos on her other series. But I noticed that this one was still in development. It was only 4 books in at this juncture. And I was like, let me take a short break from the other stuff and have a light pause for light reading. What I didn't expect was to have my heart ripped out. Literally. So that's my first page of notes. Heart ripped out. The first chapter is the introduction to the family. And this is a huge effing cast. Huge! Who do we think we are? The Bridgertons? And the 9 children? Remember Love, Mary Balogh. Alright, so the first chapter, the current Earl, the 6th, was Caleb Ware, a handsome, vigorous, genial man in his late 40s who was well liked by all who knew him. His charming Clarissa Greenfield, a daughter of a neighboring landowner of substance, and both were married young. They produced a family of 3 sons and 2 daughters before he reached the age of 40. So he had Ben Ellis, the Earl's natural son, now 25 years old, was the steward of his father's vast estates, having chosen to stay home and learn all the intricacies of the profession from his elder predecessor when he might have gone off to study at Cambridge and pursue some other career. The position had been his when the older man retired. His father had been inspired upon paying him the same handsome salary and increasing it a year later. Devlin Ware, Viscount Mountford, the eldest legitimate child, was 22, had completed his studies at Oxford the year before, and returned home to assume his responsibilities as his father's heir. And I'm trying to figure out this whole book, this whole 2 or 3 chapters, who are a heroine and who is hero? Who are these 2 lead characters? And it just... Well, first we gotta meet the Bridgertons, okay? Nicholas Ware, age 19, handsome, fair, sunny young man who both resembled his father in looks and disposition, was about to begin a career as an officer in the cavalry regiment had intended from birth. Lady Philippa Ware, Pippa to her family and close friends, was 15 and rapidly turning from a pretty girl into a lovely young woman. Owen Ware was 12. His mother sometimes described him as 1/4 pure sweetness and 3/4 undiluted mischief. Lady Stephanie Ware was 9 years old and everyone's favorite, though sometimes felt like a nuisance to be the youngest in the family, and the youngest by a long way when one thought of Ben, Devlin, and Nicholas, even Pippa. So there you've got your family. And don't forget Grandma and Grandpa are still alive. Then we have the family across the street. The Rise. And they have Welsh names and it's a little hard on the pronunciation. But their daughter Gwen, excuse me, their daughter Gwen has always been really, really close with Nicholas, our son. And really, really close. And they both considered each other like a brotherly, sisterly relationship. They never really thought of each other in the romantic way. But the rest of the world thought of them in the romantic way. So she turns 18, he's going off to war, and they finally have that chit chat. So they have the chit chat, and they say, look, we love each other like brother and sister. Let's agree to go on as close friends, and let us understand that there'll be no betrothal between us, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yes, and he's like, yes, and they both agree. And then we have to decide who's the real love interest here. And it takes a little bit. And then we find out it's Devlin. Gwen has always admired Devlin, but Devlin has never seen her. She's always been the little kid in the back of the room and blah, 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 blah. So then we gotta wait, as we do with regencies. We gotta wait for the two characters to reveal themselves to each other. Now that we got rid of Nicholas, we had that talk. Now we gotta have the opposite talk with Devlin, and we gotta get to know each other. Blah blah blah. You know, they've known each other their entire lives, but according to Gwen, he's never seen her. And according to Devlin, he had seen her, but because she was with his brother Nick, he decided not to interfere. We all know that what's going on with regencies. That's the plan. So, we get through all that hurdle, right? We get through the Nicholas thing. We get through the Devlin thing. We get through the admitting our feelings for each other thing, right? We have the big crescendo of a kid. And guess what? Here comes the twist to wrench it all up. Am I right? I'm right. Oh, my nose. Excuse me. Okay, so he takes her. He takes her out, right? They do the old dancing thing. They do the thing with the dance, and he dances with her twice. You know, you're not supposed to dance with the same girl twice unless you're gonna be romantic with them, marriage and stuff. This is the Regency, of course. You do know that. It is the Regency, right? And they sneak out on the balcony, on the terrace, or whatever the hell you want to call it out there, and they get all smoochy smoochy. And then they overhear his father having a conversation with his mistress. And Devlin goes off like a firecracker, explodes. How could his father do this to his mother? And the cymbals clash, and the cymbals clash, and the cymbals clash. And you know what happens? Instead of the father crawling up in shame and wiggling away, or admitting his issues, or hiding the mistress, they kick Devlin out. They tell him, you made a scene. The entire neighborhood knows. You announced this to this thing. You are a disgrace to this family. Blah, 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 blah. And they kick him out. So there's your first heart wrench. And he tries to talk to his parents, and the door gets slammed in his face. No! You did wrong. You're out. Here he is, heir to the fortune, and they kick him out. Totally kick him out. So, we first have the little speechy weechy. And these speechy weechies are just over it. So, um, she says, um, after he after he tells her all this stuff, right? She says to him, "There is no warmth in you, Devlin, no give. You are all inflexible righteousness. I never loved you either. How could I have? The man with whom I was infatuated with does not even exist. I saw you and I made you into the image of my dream man. You are not the only one who learned truth this evening. I learned it too. I saw that I have loved an illusion. I do not like the real Devlin Ware. I am glad you are going away and never coming back." So he leaves. He's tried to talk to his family and he tried to talk to her, and this is how he leaves. However, we get Ben going with him. Um, I suppose you agreed with everyone last night and saw me as the big villain, the one who could not condone the big lie. Why the devil did you come with me today? I told you why. My mother may be dead, but she was and always will be my mother. And you were the only one of us who was right, Dev. That does not necessarily make what you did right, but you made me see the truth that I suppose I have always known and pretended not to know, that my mother was no more to my father than a cheap whore. Or maybe not so cheap, I will never know, but I hope for her sake she demanded and got an exorbitant price. She meant so little to him that he went and married your mother even though there was me. And then he kept on whoring while keeping up the pretty image of devoted husband and father, friend and neighbor. The perfect aristocratic family in the perfect setting. Even I was somehow folded into the image without tarnishing it. You were the only one who ultimately could not be folded in. You need looking after, Dev. I don't know how you will manage otherwise. So he's going in as Devlin's Batman, his servant. I always knew your story, Ben. I knew that though you were older than me, you could never inherit the title of Ravenswood. I knew you were sent to a different school from one Nick and I attended and now own, all because you were not aware, though your father is. I can honestly say that for what it's worth, that I never thought of you as inferior to the rest of us. You have always been my brother, important to me. I swear this is true. You did not come with me just because you thought I would need you, did you? You came at least partly because what happened last night made you feel alone. It made you feel you did not belong at Ravenswood at all. You need me as much as I need you. Yes, they did. Then this happens. He goes away, he enlists in the military, and he's away for 6 years. And they return. Oh, get it. Smokey, you can come up here. Smoke, you can come up here. Mommy put her books down. Come on. Come up here. You can come up here. Come up, Mommy. We'll go to bed in a few minutes. Mommy got up in the middle of the night. This book only took 2 hours. So then we're coming back, right? And like I said, be prepared for spoilers. Devlin Ware, 7th Earl of Stratton, peer of the realm, owner of Ravenswood Hall and a number of other properties and vast fortune beside, had been summoned home by his father's solicitor, now his own. He had been summoned to by a brief formal note from the Countess, his mother. He neither answered nor responded to either one. Ben had done so, he suspected, but they had not talked about it. People wrote to Devlin for years. Devlin never ever responded. So Ben had to do all the responding. And everybody is pissed off at Devlin for not responding to any of their letters. They were worried about him. They were stressing about him. They were waiting for him to come home. And he never came home. His father died 2 years ago. He had drunken himself into a stupor, probably died of alcoholism and a heart attack. And they wanted Devlin to come home in 4 years, and Devlin stuck it out another 2. So now he's returning 6 years later. Um, so during these years, yes, ma'am. During these years, Ben met a woman on the fields, and he married her, and they had a child. And the mother died of fever, and the mother's name was Marjorie. So they talk about her. They called their daughter Joy Ellis, and Devlin did not think there was any irony in the naming. He believed that Ben, in his own quiet way, loved his wife and was happy. He buried her and mourned her with stone-like demeanor when she died somewhere in the Pyrenees of a chill they could not stop to treat properly as they slogged their way into France. So, they come back then. And then we have another talk. Uh, what does he say? Um, he goes, why would Ben not be staying for long? Ravenswood is not really my home, Ben says. It is where I grew up because my father took me there after my mother died. Now my father is dead too. It was the first time that the fact had been mentioned openly between them since Ben had forced those 2 letters upon him from the solicitors and the countess, looking as he did as if he might be weeping, though even then they had not talked about the fact that their father was dead. Devlin read both letters, folded them carefully, and handed them back. Ben had disappeared for a few weeks after that. Devlin suspected he'd gone to see Nicholas. Perhaps they had grieved together. He had half expected that Ben would not return, but he did. Oh, and it's also mentioned during this time that Nicholas was injured, and both Devlin and Ben stood over him while he was sick. Perhaps the problem, of course, Ben was older than he, the eldest son of the Earl of Stratton, but it was Devlin, his second son, who was now Earl and owner of Ravenswood, in his place. He was the one who bore the name Ware, just because he had been born within wedlock, while his older brother had not been that. I will not be staying for long, Ben said. I need to make a home for my daughter. Where? Ben had been thinking about it. I'm wondering if you would sell Pen Allen to me. Pen Allen, it was one of the minor properties Devlin had inherited from his father. It was close to the sea and a picturesque fishing village 20 miles or so from Ravenwood. They had gone there once when Devlin was a young boy and Nicholas had been a little baby. He had a sudden vivid memory of the salt, the smell of the sea, and the fish that Ben had brought back that morning, spent out on a boat with the fishermen. There will be no need to. Don't tell me that you will give it to me. I will buy it. If you will sell it, I can afford it. Devlin wondered if his father's not leaving him one of the properties had hurt Ben, implying as it did not only the gentry were worth of owning land, the legitimate sons of the gentry that was. You do not know my price yet, but do not leave too soon. I am going to need you. He almost said the words aloud, but it was grossly unfair. His brother had stuck by him all this time, though it could not be easy. Now he had a life to get on with, a life that included his daughter. So they go home, and then they go to the family. And if you've read Regencies before, when the Earl or the Duke or anybody else brings home the new wife, especially if they've not met before, everybody lines up at the front door, all the servants, and the Duke or the Earl or whoever introduces the bride to all the servants as they come in. Well, not only do the servants line up, but the effing family lines up too. And it's all, good to see you. Hello. No hugs. No enthusiasm. Everybody is just stone cold. We later learn that they're all screaming internally. They're all like every last one of them want to hug him and squeeze him. They're coming out of their skins, but they all maintain decorum. My sinus drip is back, something terrible. It was gone for over 6 months. Can you believe it? So then we get back to Gwen, and she discovers that he has returned. And they talk a little bit, and then Devlin talks to Gwen some more, and then Pippa's speech hits home a little bit. She finally talks. Pippa is just like she holds up in her room and doesn't want to talk to anybody. So Devlin finally gets her to talk. Eve, you were not to blame. Even though the consequences were terrible, I was never really sorry that you did what you did. I was actually proud for you, for if you had waited and talked privately with Papa and even perhaps with Mama and the grandparents, everything would have been hushed up when it needed to be shouted from the rooftops. There was one thing I do blame you for, though. Papa died 2 years ago. We waited and waited and waited for you to come home, and you did not. Stephanie waited for you hanging out by the river, waiting for your carriage to arrive, and it did not. Owen needed you terribly. He had 3 older brothers and then none. Not even letters from you. Nothing, just silence, because you could not bear to think of us, I suppose. And now you have come back all turned to stone. Like I said, the greeting in the hallway. You are not the only one who has suffered. He let her go and stayed where he was and realized with a sinking heart for 6 years he had shut himself up inside in an act of self-defense that was incredibly selfish. He had come home and, this is the atmosphere that greets him. Okay. So then, Gwen, we got to throw in, for Devlin, we got to throw in a little obstacle here. Devlin meets Gwen's potential suitor, but it comes apparent that when her potential suitor is around music and stuff, he's like this, and he doesn't really see stuff. Gwen. So, and then Ben talks with, Ben, and he talks with Stephanie again, and then Devlin decides that he's going to, redo he learns when talking to his siblings that his parents used to hold several community dances at their place. They would hold the May dance with the maypole festival, arrow shooting, archery, ribbon contest, baking contest, all that kind of stuff in the community. The Valentine's Day stuff, they held summer stuff, they held Christmas stuff. And when Devlin left, all of that ended. And they did nothing for years. Nothing. So Devlin comes back and he decides, once he learns this, that he's going to reinstate it. And then, of course, we've got to get back with Gwen and renegotiate our marriage treaty. And once we did that, I was expecting another hurdle. There's always usually a little hurdle, a little relationship hurdle. And the last final hurdle didn't happen. Although it was joked on, because Nicholas returns and, hey, Gwen, I thought you were going to be mine forever, blah, blah, blah. And it was said jokingly and smiling and stuff like that. And things start to warm up at the end of the book, and they do get married. But, so we'll have to see who. Let's just peek, shall we? It's Philippa. Philippa gets her book. So this is going to be Philippa's book. So we'll see what happens with that. But I just wanted something light to read. It just took a couple of hours. A Regency never took me long. I've always gone through them quite quickly. So, if you could please hit the like and subscribe for me and my gal pal here, I'd appreciate it. And look forward to my next book review. And maybe hit the like and subscribe. It'd be most appreciative. Have a good one.